Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our board meeting tonight. We have some great ceremonies that are going to occur. But first, let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Sergeant Tobias, would you lead us, please? You just you thought the cake was it, huh? Okay. Officer Drulis, would you please start us?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sarge couldn't wait to get out of here.
Yeah, symbolic.
Amanda, will you call the roll?
Trustee Messick is absent. Trustee Rocco?
Here.
Trustee Sheehan?
Here.
Trustee Casera?
Here.
Trustee Lautner is absent. Trustee Zora?
Here.
President DeCipio?
Here.
Quorum is present, sir.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay, our first item is the swearing-in ceremony of probationary police officer Timothy Drulis. Chief, would you do the honors, please?
Officer Drulis, come on up. Come in. So we'll call you up in just a minute.
Solemnly swear
That I will uphold and defend
that I will uphold and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State,
of Illinois,
and I will faithfully carry out
and I will faithfully carry out
all duties
imposed upon
and entrusted in me
and entrusted in me
as probationary police officer
as probationary police officer
for the Village of LaGrange Park.
for the Village of LaGrange Park.
So, with that being said, what we're gonna do next is first, I'll have Tim introduce who's here with him tonight. So Tim, go ahead and do such.
My family and family friends, my Uncle Chuck, my cousin Matt, my mom, my dad, and my aunt.
Welcome, everybody. A little bit about Tim. Tim joined us back in October of 2016. Tim is Dennis. He's a grad of LT. He actually also is a grad of Lewis University in the criminal justice system. He went through that degree as well. He has a prestigious honor of being one of only a few that finished through the Boy Scouts of America program at the highest level, which is an Eagle Scout. So he did that when he was growing up as well. He worked for Berwyn as an auxiliary officer for about a year. Then he also, once he joined us, went to the Cook County Police Academy, graduated from there, and completed his FDO program, which OIC Morocco, who's going to be Sergeant Morocco come in May, was his OIC. And so with that being said, he's already had a little bit of a tenured time. He's on a probationary period with us, and we look forward to a lot of good things. I told you tonight's unique because I have somebody that's starting and I have somebody that's completing. And that's a unique thing for us, but at the same rate, as I said, it shows both spectrums of where we're at. So with that being said, and without further ado, Mom, come on up. Welcome, Officer Drew.
Congratulations, welcome aboard.
Officer Drulis, I hope you're not going to run for political office. I've had the privilege of knowing your dad. He's a colleague of mine, Dr. Drulis, for many, many years. And I know the type of family that you have and the upbringing that you've had. And I can say the Village of LaGrange Park is privileged to have you come on board and represent our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so in with the new and out with the old, I guess, huh? Sorry, Sergeant, you weren't here for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, it's a privilege, so let's go. Well, Sergeant, it's a privilege to be associated with you in my tenure and what you've done for our village and representing them. Ethical.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so here we go. So Sergeant Tobias has been with us since April of 1984. He has received over 500 hours of in-service training. He was a juvenile officer in 1987 and he was a juvenile coordinator for the department from 1992 to 2006, a total of 14 years.
Check.
1996 Award of Merit for Outstanding Service and Professionalism. On procedures. Sergeant Tobias has been with us since the April 1984. But going on, he achieved the rank of officer in charge in 1995. He was promoted to the rank of sergeant in 2004, to which he holds today. He has received numerous letters of commendation and thanks during his career. We looked through his file for a few letters from some of our people in our village and from a previous lieutenant. Thank you for the extra effort in taking the initiative to create and take part in the Bicycle Burglary Patrol Unit. The added special mapping will hopefully assist in the detail. Thanks again. From the principal at Forest Road School, much appreciation on being affiliated as one of the Adopt-A-Cop officers for our school. Your knowledge and professionalism was super. From a resident, Sergeant Tobias assisted me greatly in a time of need. He made the unfortunate event of my broken-down vehicle more comforting, first by allowing myself to sit in his police vehicle when the weather was cold. Also by me being stranded, frightened, worried, he gave me comfort to feel more relaxed by his demeanor, which made my plight more tolerable. From a resident, and this is the kind of guy that Sergeant is. I'm so very pleased to help I received from Sergeant Ted today in reference to a lost member of my family. I realize some persons do not recognize a furry little friend as a family member, but I do. I would have been devastated if the outcome was different, but to see Sergeant Ted at my door with my precious companion, I knew all was going to be good. Thank you so very much. So this is just a few examples of what Sergeant has meant to our community, how he treated our residents and respected the colleagues that he worked with on a daily basis. Fortunately, his retirement and last day of work will be May 1st, 2017. And Sergeant, on behalf of the board, the Village of LaGrange Park, it's been a privilege serving with you. Thank you for all that you've done for our community. You will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, President. On behalf of the board, on behalf of village staff, this is something that we've started under my tenure as the chief and will continue. It's actually a special honor to receive the statue. The statue is something that shows who we are, what we're about. It's got his years of service. It shows what we appreciate as a symbol of who we are as police. And that's something that he can put up on that mantle and think about what it meant to be one of us as it goes on. Never that he's going to not be, but it's a situation The other thing is some story about Ted. Little bit, if I say the word survivor, that's probably what best fits Ted. Okay, so he's been through trial and errors, he's been through high and lows. All of us had in certain careers. One of the things that he does have is he's got the highest amount of miles per hour of stopping somebody for speeding on a roadway, and that's 103 miles an hour. It was 103 miles an hour on the Grange Road, and it was an aspect where a person was driving a motorcycle, and he clocked the first vehicle over the speed limit, and he was planning on stopping that vehicle. But then all of a sudden, the radar just went crazy, and zoom, by a speed of light was the motorcycle. He went after the motor, it went in the direction where the motorcycle was, didn't know if he was ever going to see that motorcycle again. When he put on his lights, not blocks up, the Good Samaritan pulled to the side. So, but that is something that he'll have on his caveat, that was something he achieved by stopping thus far. I'm not saying we want to break that, but it was something that he actually achieved at the highest mile per hour rate of a speeder. But I'll tell you, from the rank of going all the way through, he's ending with one of the hardest positions on our department, and that's the sergeant. Because the sergeant has to be the buffer between the administration as well as the patrol staff. And you have to be able to see both sides. And you have to be able to go back and present one side the correct way. So it's a little different sometimes to be able to be on both sides, be one of them at times, but then also oversee them. And he did a very good job of being able to keep that means. He worked extra security for Dennis at Nazareth, still does, don't know if he'll continue that for Dennis as he retires, but he's the guy that usually is off on Ogden on game day, helping get those cars parked in the lot. That's his big chore when he's there. But again, from our end, family, friends, everybody that came, we appreciate this opportunity. I'm going to turn this floor over to Ted. He does want to say a few words. And we thank you, Ted, for those 33 plus years. And we look forward to you having a very enjoyable retirement and anything else you do in the future.
Thanks for coming tonight and sharing your time with me and allowing me to share my time with you. I should probably introduce the Tobias and the Bennett side of the family here. I have my brother Todd off to my right. My cousin Sherry, my cousin Dick, cousin Sandy and her husband Jeff, my cousin Margaretta, my cousin Donna, my cousin Terry, my sister Barb and her husband Gary, Julia and Rick, and my cousin Judy. I appreciate all the words that have been said about to me tonight, all the things that have been done for me. They're the kinds of things that you hear at the end of a story. I'd like to tell you about the beginning of the story. 1972, I'm a freshman in high school and I'm 15 years old. I have the mind of an adolescent. I was talking to two of my friends, Jeff and Rick. We were in school, it was at the end of winter. I was telling Rick that I had this old mini bike. It was so old that there was nothing left of the seat except for the foam padding. So I took it off and I wrapped it in a towel and I duct taped it all together and put it back on. It had a 5-horsepower Briggs & Stratton lawnmower engine on it, and it was ridiculously loud. Rick, who lived up in the 1400 block of Alignment Terrace, came back and told us that for Christmas his dad bought him a brand new mini bike. And he asked us when the weather broke if we wanted to go ride with him. He said there was a forest near him and there was a bike path, and he would ride on that path and nobody would bother him. I said yes. So it came to spring, we picked a Saturday, and it was nice and warm out. Sun was shining, it was clear skies. Now, Jeff and I were coming from Brookfield, so we were headed north on Alignment Terrace from 31st Street. We went 2 blocks to 29th Street now, and I looked off to my right. There was a squad car there, and the officer was monitoring the flow of traffic. He was running radar. I knew he could hear me because his windows were down, but I wasn't sure if he could see me. Now, given the circumstance and the time frame I was working with, I thought this was a workable plan. In my mind, this is how it was going to play out. I was going to drive a half a block to Ricky's driveway. I was going to go up his driveway behind his detached garage, and I was going to ditch the mini bike. Jeff wouldn't have to listen to his parents get mad at him for hanging out with me, and the police officer was going to be patrolling up and down the street, and he wasn't going to be able to find us. Because I didn't know if he saw me or not, I was going to slowly walk out to the front and take a peek and see if he saw me or not. And if I did cross paths with him, I was going to play stupid and I was going to deny everything. Now, back at the intersection, this is what really happened. I went up Ricky's driveway and we made it to the side of the garage. I fumbled with the kill switch, thinking that I'd make it around to the back, and I accidentally turned off the engine. Jeff jumps off the back. I throw the mini back down on the ground, and I turn around. When I turned around, the police officer was standing next to his squad car 20 feet in front of me. He followed me up the driveway. I executed a near-perfect plan. I got caught, and I was completely stunned. I just dropped my head. I couldn't believe it. In my teens, in that moment, I realized I didn't have to pretend to be stupid. Back at the police station, he throws my mini bike in jail, and he writes me 2 traffic citations. One for not having a driver's license, and the other one for not having license plates. Now, here's my first impression of this police officer. He's professional. His uniform is clean and pressed. His gun belt and duty leather are shiny. He has a military bearing. He's confident in himself and his abilities. He's got a command presence. He exudes authority. And more importantly, he's respectful. I know he's respectful by the way he spoke to my mother when she came to pick me up. At 15, even I knew the police officer was keeping the streets of LaGrange Park safe for everybody, including me. So it didn't bother me when he wrote those 2 traffic citations, because later, I got my mini bike back. I was 27 years old when I got hired with LaGrange Park, and I didn't know anybody here, and certainly nobody knew me. My first chief, Chief Savage, assigned me to Sergeant Wally Mack, Fred Ferber, who would later become one of my sergeants, Don Barkell, and Pete Shamek. All have since retired, and Pete Shamek has since passed away. They were great teachers to me. They were very patient, and they were very supportive, as was Lieutenant Dunlop, who would later become my second chief. I learned to trust these guys immediately, and I respected them immensely. About 7 months in, it was November of 1984, the opportunity presented itself to me, and it made me think about the mini bike incident. I did a little digging, and I found out who the officer was. Now, here's the thing. My first impression was of a LaGrange Park police officer. I was hired by LaGrange Park Police Department. I had my second first impression of the same officer within the first 7 months. And I got to work on the same shift with Don Barkell for my first 2 years. How cool is that? Now, when people who retire from police departments, they generally put together a shadow box, and they put mementos from their careers in there that remind them of the good times. One of the things that are going to be in my box is something that represents my relationship with the village of LaGrange Park. Don Barkell's first impression of me 45 years ago. Now, Don and I see each other occasionally. When we start talking, we start laughing about it. And I guess the reason we start laughing about it is because we were both surprised when we found out. And the other thing is, the odds of something like this happening are probably astronomical. And that number, astronomical, pales in comparison to the level of gratitude that I have to the citizens of LaGrange Park and the administrations that I've worked for providing me a career that has supported my family. Thank you. I have one regret, and tonight apparently presented itself. It's something that's been weighing on my shoulders for quite a long time. When I explain it to you, you'll understand what it is. My third chief in 1999 made me a DARE officer, Chief McCullum. My first year teaching that program would be 1999-2000 school year. I was teaching the 6th grade at Forest Road School. At the Christmas walk for 1999, there were 4 of us, and he had us spread out along that route so that we could talk to the kids and give them handouts. Dare America that year came out with a Millennium Jacket that year. Something that they never made out before. It was better than anything, and they were real pricey. I went to Jimmy Wade, who had been teaching the curriculum for a few years, and I said, wouldn't it be great if the department paid for these and we could all look the same? And, basically, I wanted one. That's what it was. And he said that it's not in the budget and that's not going to happen. So I went to my brother Todd and his business partner, Wally. They own a company called Construction Partners, Inc. I made them a deal, which is traditional for the DARE program. If somebody donates something to the DARE program, you would acknowledge that. I told them that if they donated these jackets, I would acknowledge them at the DARE graduation, like I did for Alberta, who owns the KFC in Westchester on 31st and Wolf Road. That year at the graduation day, she provided every child in that school a free lunch. I acknowledged her at the graduation. The graduation came and went, and I didn't acknowledge my brother and his partner, Construction Partners, Inc. I'd like to do that now. Construction Partners, Inc. was created by my brother and his partner, Wally, from nothing but experience. My mother at the time invited them to build that business in her basement, which they did. 8 months later, they incorporated, and 6 years later, they bought a building in Brookfield on 47th Street. Now, Construction Partners, Inc. doesn't do residential remodeling. They do businesses, industrial, manufacturing, railroads. I've seen them put closed loading docks for semis and the mechanisms that go along with it. I've seen them do drainage problems, interior and exterior of buildings. I've seen them take down walls in buildings and put them back up. The one that I like the best is they took an entire manufacturing plant floor out section by section and then re-cemented it. And they moved all the equipment around in a circle until they got it all done. This is the type of work that they would do, and they would do it to your satisfaction for all your commercial and industrial needs. When I think of my career, it reminds me of how much my perception has changed. I'm not looking through the same eyes as when I came through the door. And specifically, I want to talk about the people that I work with. People that I've worked with are like ingredients to my perception. They've made my experiences more fulfilling and more satisfying. When I leave here, what I will miss are all my ingredients. I want to thank my fourth chief, Ed Rompa, for allowing me to go through the grieving process of leaving a career and making the transition almost effortlessly. I'm grateful for a career that has been so supportive. I don't mean just during the fair weather. I mean all the changes of the seasons. From my very first administration with Tim Schenke as the village manager and Bob Hewson as the village president to today with Julia Sedilio as the village manager and Jim DeCipio as the president and all the board members. I want to thank Assistant Village Manager Emily Rodman for her support, Finance Director Larry Noller, Administrative Support Personnel Sue Bloom, Allison Chorley, Anna Slezik, Deanne Carrillo, Sandy Blecklick, Fire Chief Dean Magus and all the firemen and paramedics and EMTs that work for him, Brandon McLaughlin, the Director of the Public Works, and all the men and women that work for him. I have a roll call list here of people that I work with, and I would just be reading names to you. I can tell you one thing is that every man and woman that I work with in the police department are just the top. I mean, they are great. They do the job, and one of my friends, Felix, was telling me we have to make sure that everybody is set when we leave, that everything is going to be taken care of. It already is. We don't need to do that. I'm starting a new life in my chapter, and I'm happy that I don't have to be here any longer. However, I'm sad that I'm leaving. Because for me, this has been one sweet ride. And I thank all of you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Are we the luckiest people in the world or what? So blessed. Do it, Dr. Drulis. We'll be waiting. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our next item on the agenda. We have a presentation from our lobbyist, Chris Ganschow. Chris?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I don't know how I'll follow up that speech, but I'll do the best I can. Don't have an audience to do that. So anyway, I just want to come in and talk to you a bit about the last year, some of the things we've been able to do. I assume everybody has a copy of the report I put together. And, you know, I think we've accomplished a lot in terms of conveying the village's messages to decision makers and expanding our relationship with our legislators and other officials over the last year. I know some of you participated in some of those events, the drive down last fall or last spring, last April, and then of course we have the drive down coming up in a few weeks. I don't know who's all going, but it's I think always a good trip to get down to Springfield to meet with our, you know, we have 5 different legislators, Senators Landeck, Senators Lightford, Representatives Zaleski, Ford, and Welch, of course, last but not least, Chris Welch. So you know, we've kind of been blessed with a wide variety of legislators to work with, I think. Sometimes it's a little hard to keep on top of all the players without a scorecard, but I think we've done well in continuing to build those relationships. I know we've met individually with some of these legislators, talked with Representative Zaleski about the money that's coming in slow and dribs and drabs in terms of the earmarked money the state collects, 911, MFT, corporate personal property replacement tax funds. Now the chairman of the Revenue Committee, and I know he's been helpful to try and get those funds moving a little more consistently. You know, obviously it's rough right now with the current situation with the fiscal crisis that continues and continues and continues. I wish I had some positive news in terms of possible end to those issues. Unfortunately, I think it's going to drag on for a while. We may be hitting some crisis points. Again, the past experience over the last 2 years shows that when we hit the edge of the cliff, there'll be a kind of a stopgap, mechanism put together to keep things clunking along again for a few more months. Now, it seems again that everybody's sort of set in concrete on both sides of the issue, with the governor and the legislative leaders, specifically Speaker Madigan and Senator Cullerton, kind of on the opposite sides of the divide. Hopefully, we can get everybody together soon for a solution to this crisis. The bills are piling up, $13 billion in unpaid bills, probably $7.5, $8 billion deficit in this fiscal year in terms of funding gap between expenses. It's getting to be a crisis situation for state universities, for social service providers, for a lot of other folks that rely on the state. And again, not to take sides or preferences over who's at fault and who's not at fault, but whatever the case may be in that area, the two sides are still very far apart. On the federal level, I think we've had some good efforts too with Congressman Quigley, for instance, who was here last week actually for a meeting with President DeCipio and some of the other local mayors and trustees from the area. Congressman Quigley's district includes the Grange Park, Westchester, Hillside, Oak Brook Terrace. So we had some officials in from those communities to talk to him about some of the issues that municipalities are facing, convey some concerns back to Washington on the various issues. Hopefully we'll get an infrastructure bill out of Washington. The president's promised that. That was one of his cornerstones of his campaign. It remains to be seen if that can get done. It seems that, again, there's a lot of divide between the Democrats and the president, as well as even the Republicans and the president on some issues. So I think we're still working through some of those teething problems, so to speak, with the new administration. But, Congressman Quigley's been a very effective representative for us. He's a very busy man these days. He's on the Senate or the House Intelligence Committee, and he's been very much involved with the investigations into Russian influence in the elections last year. So I think we really appreciated him taking the time to come here and see us, talk to some of the folks. He spent some time with constituents here, too, for about an hour talking about the issues before he met with President DeCipio and the other mayors. So we've been building that relationship, and proved very beneficial, I think, in some instances. We've had some problems with the federal level in terms of, not the federal level per se, but for instance, last year we had a lot of airline noise. It seemed that a lot of flights are coming over the village very low, coming into Midway. Congressman Quigley and Congressman Gutierrez's office were very helpful and responsive in trying to get us answers about what the cause of that was. At past, there was some construction and logistics issues at Midway that I think were eventually solved, so those problems sort of took care of themselves, but it was good to be able to pick the phone up and talk to those two offices and know they were going to get on the issue for us and get us an answer as quickly as possible. So, and then going forward, we've been also able to build our relationships with our county commissioners. We have a new commissioner, Sean Morrison, who's kind of taken over from Jeff Tobolsky, and then Commissioner Liz Gorman, who retired a couple years ago. And we've been working with him on a lot of issues, trying to work through some things going on with tax payments, underpayments at Bethlehem Woods, and very helpful on those issues, and working through some other issues with the county. I think we are having some problems with some cutting of brush and weeds and whatnot on Forest Preserve property around homes in the Grange Park, and I know he was helpful there. So we've moved forward building on that relationship, and I think the proof is in the pudding. We've got a lot of response and a lot of help from those offices. We've got some grant requests in front of the county right now, the Invest Cook County program, which would provide money hopefully for improvements to Barnsdale Road. The county's currently looking at that application. We've worked hard to try and identify those opportunities, grant opportunities, and of course to secure again the funds that should be coming to the village and other municipalities. You look at the local government distributive fund, always in the crosshairs of folks in Springfield that want to try and find a shortcut to solving the budget deficit by taking money from the municipalities that had nothing to do with creating the financial crisis. So we've worked with our legislators and other representatives and senators down in Springfield in support of, for instance, House Bill 617, which would bring the LGDF, as it's called, up to 10%. The full 10% is supposed to be, we're working on those issues. Seems to be that there's a lot of finger pointing at municipalities for wastefulness and having big balances, cash reserves and stuff. I don't know which towns they're talking about. I don't think it's any towns around here necessarily, but it makes an easy target, and, for certain folks in Springfield to point to the profligate municipalities and school districts, when in fact, the school districts and municipalities, for the most part, are providing a lot of services on a very tight budget and doing it very effectively. And the state of Illinois could probably take a page from a lot of towns and communities in around Illinois, including this one, on how to better manage your affairs. So, those are some of the things we're working on here in the last year. And going forward, I think we're going to try and, continue to push those issues and continue to take the opportunities and create the opportunities for our leaders and our residents to get those kinds of, to get the hearing they need, from our legislators that they should be providing to us. Those are, again, we'll be working again in the coming year on these issues. You have any questions? Anything else I can tell you about?
Any comments? Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Last year was my first time taking the drive down to Springfield, and it was interesting. I can tell you that I feel it's money well spent. When you walk through the halls of Springfield, doors opened. I was really impressed with the way we were, from Rauner's office, through Governor Rauner's office, through Barbara Flynn Curry's office, Redonio. And it was interesting the way you have your pulse on the village, your finger on the pulse of the village. I look forward to the weekly reports, and I was impressed with the way you've kept up with the iGig grant and the downspout when times have been tough. So, my opinion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Chris, it's been a pleasure working with you. Not that this is the end or anything, but your knowledge and your expertise in the areas with the representatives of our village, you're well respected. We got Quigley here. Chris, Representative Welch, comes in at a drop of a hat. He'll come at a beck and phone call from you. All our representatives respect you, and we're better off for it because we get the pulse of them and we get them when we need them. And it's due to your relationships with them that ultimately benefit the village of LaGrange Park.
Well, I just try and help facilitate things. President DeCipio, there's no better lobbyist for the village than yourself and your colleagues on the board. It's a good thing that when I talk to legislators and I say, the President DeCipio is interested in this or that or the other thing, it definitely gets their attention. You're someone that's very well respected among the municipal leaders in the area, and people know LaGrange Park's a town that doesn't cry wolf when we have a question or concern. It's legitimate. Taking advantage, but we're also making sure that our legislators do the job for us that they're elected to do. So.
Well, thank you for those comments, Chris, but it's our village manager and Julia and Emily and everyone on board that makes this team function so well. And, your meeting with Julia and myself on a monthly basis certainly has facilitated a lot of discussions in the grant process and working with department heads and getting our pulse down in Springfield. And we went and saw Representative LaShawn Ford. We visited his office. We've been everywhere. And this weekend this Friday, we're going to Mayor Bennett's office in Palos Park, who is part of CMAP, who we're looking at.
Chairman of CMAP.
Right. So we're trying to get some help there in direction with our TIF districts and BDDs. And we're always looking. We're always searching. And that's what creates a good environment for our village, that we're progressive, but yet we're conservative in our approach. So your meetings with Julia has certainly benefited, your monthly, weekly reports and coming before the board. It's a great relationship that we have. So thank you for all that you've done for it and the patience and the work of the board here, and certainly of Julia of facilitating that discussion and making our relationship better. And we look forward to the drive down because even though things weren't happening the last couple of years, you found a way to get us in the door and speak about LaGrange Park. So we're on their agenda. Whether we, have made any efforts to secure anything, I think that we planted the seed many times over, and certainly those trees will grow and provide us fruit someday.
Eventually, this will pass. The situation will pass, and maybe next month, maybe next year, maybe after the election. But eventually, we're going to get back to some normal footing here. Obviously, there's going to have to be some investment in infrastructure in this state, both at the federal and state level. We've got to start reinvesting in our communities and our infrastructure and our transportation. And you're right, there's still some opportunities if you keep your nose to the grindstone and keep your eyes and ears open. Some things can still get done, and you can with the hand we've been dealt by Springfield, and I think we've played it pretty well over the last few years.
And the drive down, and Jamie's going to be joining us, Trustee Zora is going to be joining us this year, is we do something no other village does, and we get our representatives and our elected officials together, and we break bread with them, and we have a discussion at the table, and it's in a relaxed environment, but yet we get business done, and we create these relationships, and it's all through the hard work of you and our staff and the trustees.
And I want to mention one other thing, too, that we did last year, too, and I want to obviously give credit to you and Manager Cedillo and Sherry Sowers, the president of the chamber, Grange Park Chamber of Commerce, in putting together the legislative forum back in December, where we were able to get not only our legislators, but Representative Belloc came from Oak Brook, Hinsdale, to talk with the folks here in the area. We had Representative Zaleski, Representative Welsh, Senator Landek. All came. Senator Radonio was there, of course, the Senate Majority Leader, our neighbor just to the south. And, it was great to see a good turnout from the folks in the community. People should take the opportunity. And I want to mention, next Friday, Representative Welsh will be hosting a coffee at Blueberry Hill in the Grange. Unfortunately, it's not in the Grange Park, but it's not too far away, from 9 to 10. And if anybody has the opportunity to come out and talk with him, please take it. Whether you're here in the room or watching on TV or wherever, Representative Welsh is very responsive. He likes the interchange with his constituents, and like I said, if you're not doing anything next Friday the 5th from 9 to 10 a.m., swing on by Blueberry Hill. Those are some good opportunities for us.
Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you for all your hard work. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have public participation of agenda-related items only. If anyone would care to address the board? Okay. Moving on to consent agenda, Amanda?
Items on the consent agenda are as follows. A, approval of minutes, village board meeting, March 28th, 2017. Work session meeting, April 11th, 2017. Village board executive session, April 11th, 2017. B, action resolution approving 2017-2018 pay plan. Motion to approve a resolution approving pay plan and schedule of authorized positions for FY 2017-2018. C, action authorization to destroy executive session recordings. Motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the destruction of certain verbatim records of closed meetings. D, action motion to authorize the president and chairperson of the Finance Committee to sign the register for bills and authorize the treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in payment of operating bills and salaries as itemized in the check registers. E, action motion to authorize the village treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in the payment of payroll and other bills that become due between this date and May 23rd, 2017, with subsequent approval of the payroll register and voucher register by the Board of Trustees at its regular meeting to be held on May 23rd, 2017.
I'll entertain the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Amanda. Next up is village manager's report. Julia?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have some brief updates for you and the members of the board. The first item I have is that the village is seeking applications for one spot on the Youth Commission. This is a commission of teenagers from grades 7th grade to 12th grade. More information about how to submit an application is available on the village's website. Also, just a quick reminder that we are still accepting applications for the part-time executive assistant in the Public Works Department. More information about that position and how you can apply is available on the village's website. Also, I'd like to continue to encourage folks in this room, folks out in the community, residents, to participate in the anniversary art project. This is where you submit a photo or a drawing to be a part of the community art project as part of our 125th anniversary. More information is available at the village's website on that. And folks can get information about all of these things and more by subscribing to our weekly electronic newsletter, which comes out on Fridays. And to subscribe to that newsletter, you can come into Village Hall if you don't have access to a computer, or and sign up here at Village Hall, or you can go to the village's homepage on the website. And I can say in recent weeks, we've received 6 to 8 new subscribers to our e-briefs in the last few months. So our subscriptions to the electronic newsletter continue to go up. I'm guessing it's because there's pretty good information in there. So with that concludes my report, unless if there's any questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, next, our Administration Committee. In the absence of Trustee Lawler, I have Trustee Sheehan to give the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have just one item to mention about Community Volunteer Day. The village is pleased to announce that it has scheduled the annual Community Volunteer Day for Saturday, May 6th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. During the event, community volunteers provide assistance to seniors in the community who need help with basic lawn care and spring cleanup chores. Village residents who are interested in volunteering are encouraged to get involved with this worthwhile project. Residents in need of assistance are encouraged to contact the village. To volunteer or to request assistance, you can call the Village Hall at 354-0225 or email dcorello@lagrangepark.org. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Building and Zoning Committee, Trustee Zora.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to report the building activities for March of 2017. There were 74 building permits issued in March compared to 68 last March. Permits issued year to date remain slightly more as compared to this point last year. We are now at 143 permits being issued so far this calendar year. Last year, we were at 129. Estimated construction costs for the month are about 62% higher compared to last March, with permit fees collected for the month slightly more than double last March. 156 inspections were conducted in March compared to 110 in 2016. 19 were not approved. During the month, most of the renovation work was being finalized at the new Cork Keg and Spirits located at 1000 East 31st Street, and a temporary certificate of occupancy was issued, allowing them to open for business. The village welcomes the new business. Of note, the building department has been working with the owner and general contractor and trying to address noise concerns that have arisen regarding their cooling units located at the back of the building. This is being addressed. Also of note is the building exterior along Beach Avenue, which has been modified and painted so that the old signage is no longer visible. During the month, staff attended site visits and meetings to help address outstanding concerns related to the construction at Memorial Park. The shelter house is now being constructed, but there are some additional issues and loose ends related to the remaining work to take place at the park. The village has allowed site demo work to begin, but there are issues that are still being addressed by their architect and new contractor related to site work and correcting plans for permitting. The village anticipates they are able to resolve these matters in the upcoming weeks, and that concludes my report. Sorry. Thanks. So I have one item that's up for discussion and action. St. Louis de Marillac is planning its 5th Summerfest event to take place July 6th through July 9th. This event includes carnival rides, music, food vendors, and a beer garden. There's a temporary permit attachment in our packet that shows the specific dates and hours of the events beginning Thursday, July 6th from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., Friday, July 7th, 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., Saturday, July 8th, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., with a break and starting at 6 to 11 p.m., then Sunday, July 9th from 1 to 6 p.m. Village staff may approve the event as a permitted temporary use in accordance with Section 153.195 of the Village Municipal Code, but cannot approve the event to operate past 9 p.m. due to the village nuisance restrictions. Section 93.04.c.5 of the Village Municipal Code classifies all loud and discordant noises of vibrations of any kind between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. as a nuisance affecting peace and safety. The municipal code permits the village board to approve an acceptance to the nuisance restrictions for temporary uses. As such, should the village board approve an exception to the nuisance restrictions specific to the St. Louis de Marillac Carnival Summerfest for the proposed hours of operation, village staff will approve their temporary use application for the hours requested. Staff recommends that the board grant a specific exception to the village noise restrictions in accordance with their authority as contained in Section 93.04.c.5 of the municipal code. I would like to make a motion to grant an exception to the nuisance regulations contained in Section 93.04.c.5 as amended of the Village Municipal Code for the purpose of allowing carnival rides, amplified music to remain operational at the St. Louis de Marillac Carnival Summerfest on Thursday, July 6, 2017 until 10 p.m. and on Friday, July 7th, 2017 and Saturday, July 8th, 2017 until 11 p.m.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Trustee Zora?
I actually missed this event last year because they didn't have it, so I was happy to see it was on the agenda this year, and I think we should do it. It's a well-attended event. The St. Louis needs the additional revenue. It's great for those who live in the area and those who have to drive there, so I think we should do it.
Any other comments? Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Chief Rampa, in years past, sir, there's been zero or very few complaints at this event from the surrounding neighbors, and correct?
That's correct, Trustee Sheehan. We haven't had many, if any, and any little bit that we have had have been handled right away.
Thank you, sir.
Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Trustee Zora.
Thank you.
Okay, Engineering and Capital Projects Committee, Trustee Casera.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 3 items to report on this evening. The first item, National Power Riding has completed the cleaning and televising of sewers ahead of 2017 street paving program. This information was used to identify the sewer repairs and maintenance required on these lines prior to any roadway improvements being constructed. The second item, on March 21st, 2017, sealed bids for the 2017 sewer repair project were received by the village and publicly opened. During the March 28th village board meeting, a contract was awarded to the low responsible bidder, Suburban General Construction, to perform the previously identified repairs in advance of the 2017 street paving program. All work will be completed in advance of the street program. Final item, final plans and specifications for the Harding improvements, Brainerd Avenue to Kemen Avenue, were submitted to the Illinois Department of Transportation for inclusion in their June project letting schedule. IDOT should award the contract in mid-July with an anticipated construction start in August. All work on the project is expected to be completed by late fall. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Casera. Public Safety Committee, in the absence of Trustee Messick, I've asked Trustee Rocco to give the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the Police Department, the summary of activities through March 20th of 2017, the total crimes reported through the 20th of March 2017 are at 47. This is compared to 70 in the total through the month of March 2016. Overall police activity is at 1160 incidents handled through the 20th, and compared to 1430 through the month of March in 2016. Traffic enforcement is at 1623 tickets issued through March of 2017, compared to 1670 through March of 2016. Sergeant Ted Tobias, as we know, he's retired after 33 years of quality service to our village. We do wish him the very best in his future endeavors, and thanks for a job well done. Officer Tim Gorillas, as we know, has been sworn in and will be new in his career. Tim is single and is a graduate of Lewis University, as we know, with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and his past achievement which he received was prestigious honor of Eagle Scout through the Boy Scouts of America. We wish Tim the very best in his new venture in LaGrange Park. Welcome. A few additional reminders. This first Citizens of Police Academy is set to begin on Thursday, April 27th, 2017. I think that's this Thursday. The renewal of the Spark Plug program will be held in conjunction with the staff park of Junior High School. Will take place in the first part of May 2017, targeting at-risk youth of 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. The program will consist of a 1-hour study time, 1-hour activity time, and 1-hour dinner time with their guardian. And that concludes the police summary. With respect to the fire department activities for the month of March, EMS responses for this month were 143. There have been 440 year-to-date compared to 416 year-to-date in 2016. Fire rescue incidents this month is 32. There have been 112 year-to-date compared to 108 year-to-date in 2016. During the month, fire department instructors provided CPR and AED recertification training for LaGrange Park police personnel. On March 7th, village staff participated in the statewide tornado drill. On March 11th, our fire and police departments, along with various other neighboring ones, were recognized at the Helping Hand Gala for the support provided to their facilities and clients located in our communities. Fire prevention staff witnessed hydrostatic fire sprinkling system testing at the new home of 628 Forest and the renovated tenant space at 418 Sherwood in the Village Market. On Monday, March 20th, Dean Magos provided a presentation to the Women's Club at Plymouth Place explaining the fire department's operations, providing an overview of LTAC and some lessons on fire safety and fall prevention for our seniors. Also on the 20th, LTAC went live. This is very exciting, which required a great amount of work by all involved over many years, including both staff and village officials. Thank you very much to our staff and village officials. They deserve it. As expected, there will be various technological and procedural issues to be resolved and fine-tuned over the coming weeks and months. LTAC was tested on the fire side almost immediately by handling several actual structure fires in the first few weeks of operation. And that concludes my report for the fire department. Thank you, Mr. President. There are no action items.
Thank you, Trustee Rocco. Okay, moving on to Public Works Committee, Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following for March 2017. The sweeper spent 118 and a half hours cleaning 270 miles of village streets and picked up 42 and a half yards of debris. Tree maintenance, trimming, and inspections were performed during 34 regular hours. 148 regular hours were spent on the maintenance of public works equipment and vehicles. 127 hours were spent filling potholes with approximately 7.5 tons of UPM used. 224 day shift hours were spent on building and ground maintenance around the Public Works facility, Village Hall, and along 31st Street. Work orders were completed with crews removing roadkill, making sign repairs, and picking up several piles of brush from a windstorm. Brush pickup took place following a day of high winds in the beginning of the month. 62 and a half day shift hours were spent making several passes through town, removing approximately 56 yards of brush from parkways. 82 regular hours and 44 overtime hours were spent on 2 snow events, which required either salting, snow plowing, or both. There was a total of 436 miles salted and or plowed with approximately 74 and a half tons of salt used. Various maintenance were performed on village vehicles. Water department operations over 425 and a half day shift hours and 11 3/4 overtime man hours during the month of March were spent on maintenance and repair of sewer and water mains. 25,590,000 gallons of water were purchased from the Brookfield North Riverside Water Commission. 1,341 water meters were read in Section 3. 50 monthly accounts and 16 final meter readings were taken. Various inspections, appointments, and service calls were performed. 3 water or sewer inspections, 22 meter appointments, and 14 service calls were performed. 15 water bacterial samples were taken. All samples passed. 110 utility locations were identified prior to excavation. 1 water main and 2 service lines were repaired. 2 valve boxes were repaired. 3 water shutoff repairs were performed. Water shutoffs were performed. 1 hydrant modification kit was installed. Next, Mr. President, motion and action for the 2017 sewer lining project. This project will consist of work necessary to improve and rehabilitate portions of the combination sewer system at various locations throughout the village of LaGrange Park using inversion lining and all appurtenant work to properly complete this project in accordance with the specifications and bidding documents. Bid specifications were prepared and a notice to bidder requesting bids was published on April 5th, 2017 in the Suburban Life newspaper. A bid opening will be had April 18th, 2017, and the lowest bidder will be determined. In this fiscal year, the village has budgeted in the sewer fund capital outlay 05-44-4-420, $191,250 for sewer lining. This project will not start until next fiscal year, and the proposed budget has been revised accordingly. Staff recommends approval of a contract to Visu Sewer of Illinois in the amount of $172,740 plus a 5% contingency at tonight's meeting. Therefore, Mr. President, motion to award a contract to Visu Sewer of Illinois in the amount of $172,740 plus a 5% contingency for unforeseen conditions and authorize the village manager to execute any necessary contract documents.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Inlining is good for the infrastructure. It's a lot cheaper than replacing the actual pipe. This project actually works. And this company has been around for a long time and done many quality jobs, sir.
Any other comments from the board? Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, next we'll move on to the 2017 crack sealing project. In an effort to preserve streets paved in the last 5 to 10 years, it is recommended that fiberized crack fill be injected into pavement cracks. This prevents further damage from occurring due to water infiltration and freeze-thaw cycles. Bid specifications were prepared and notice to bidders requesting bids was published in the April 6th and April 13, 2017 IDOT Bulletin as required. Bid opening was April 18, 2017, and in the proposed fiscal year 2017-18 budget, there is $15,000 budgeted in the Public Works Services 01-44-3-345 and $19,500 budgeted in the Motor Fuel Tax Fund Services 04-40-3-345. Therefore, it's staff's recommendation approval of a contract to Denler Inc. in the amount of $39,656.25 at tonight's meeting. In an effort to maximize the amount of crack sealing, the Public Works Department will decrease other expenditures over the course of the fiscal year to cover the $5,156.25 variance from bid to budget. Therefore, Mr. President, I make a motion to award the contract to Denler Inc. in the amount of $39,656.25 and authorize the village manager to execute any necessary contract documents.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a good way, a much cheaper way of maintaining our roads to stop the wear and tear. The freeze-thaw cycle gets us every time with spring, summer, fall, and winter. And Denler has been around since 1967. They've done quality jobs for the city of Naperville, et cetera. Good investment.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Any other comments from the board? Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, lastly, the new fire hydrant modification kits, open purchase order. The purpose is to request authorization to have an open purchase order with HD Supply Waterworks Ltd. For the purchase of new fire hydrants and/or fire hydrant modification kits. The purchase order would have a not-to-exceed total amount of $60,000 for fiscal year 2016-17 and fiscal year 27-18. In 2009, the Public Works Department purchased the necessary tools to allow the rebuilding of current fire hydrants instead of replacing them with new fire hydrants. By rebuilding the fire hydrants, the village is able to save a substantial amount of money in both hardware and labor for the installation. In order to keep upgrade leaking fire hydrants, the department needs the ability to purchase hydrant modification kits, with each kit costing approximately $2,406. An open purchase order would allow the department to purchase modification kits throughout the 2016-27 budget year and upcoming 2017-2018 budget year, instead of storing a large number of the kits on site. This open purchase order would also allow the department to purchase new fire hydrants should it become necessary, caused by accidents when the hydrant cannot be repaired. The department budgeted $60,000 per year. 03-44-5-474, Water Fund, Water Distribution, Supplies, Materials, etc. for water mains in the fiscal year 2016-2017 and upcoming fiscal year 2017-2018 budget for hydrant purchases. HD Supply Waterworks is the village's vendor for all water and sewer parts and supplies. Staff recommends the approval of tonight's meeting for open purchase order not to exceed $60,000 a year with HD Supply Waterworks Limited for the purpose of fire hydrant modification kits for the fiscal years 2016-17, 2017-2018. Therefore, Mr. President, make a motion approving an open purchase order not to exceed a total amount of $60,000 per year with HD Supply Waterworks Limited for the purpose of fire hydrant modification kits or new fire hydrants for the fiscal year 2016-17 and fiscal year 2017-2018.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, with Director McLaughlin's leadership, keeping costs down, it's a lot cheaper to modify the hydrant than it is to repair each one, and it gives our crews time to do other things throughout the village. Money well spent, sir.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And that concludes my reports tonight, sir.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Finance Committee items, Trustee Rocco?
Thank you, Mr. President. As of March 31st, the fiscal year to date, general revenue fund is at 96% of the annual budget and approximately $136,000 less than last year at this time. Sales tax receipts are about 2% lower than last year, while telecommunication taxes are down by 11%. Permit revenue is well above budget and $51,000 higher than last year. Intergovernmental revenue is about 9% lower than last year due to decreased receipts from income tax and personal property replacement tax. An investigation by the Illinois Municipal League concludes that the decrease is at least due in part to a change in the accounting system used by the Illinois Department of Revenue. The Illinois Department of Revenue has indicated that the variances in the cash flow pattern will continue into 2018. Charges for services are down about 10% due in part to decreased ambulance fees. Miscellaneous revenue is lower due in part to the village receiving a one-time payment of $37,000 for past due payment in lieu of taxes last year. Transfers are greater than last year due to the new transfer from the motor fuel tax fund to the general fund to support street maintenance operations. Total general fund expenditures are within expectations at 86% of the annual budget and about $485,000 above last year. Most of the increase is explained by three expenditures: increased police pension contribution, TIF and business district implementation cost, and LTAC startup capital cost. That concludes my report, and we have two action items, Mr. President. The first item is regarding the 2016-2017 budget amendments. It's something we do every year to balance our budget. The village policy requires that the village board amend the annual budget if the total expenditures for a department or fund will exceed the approved budget. State statutes authorize the village board to revise the budget by 2/3 vote of corporate authorities of 5 affirmative votes. The general fund public works budget requires an increase of $20,500 due to the allocation of IRMA annual contribution for liability insurance and claims activities. The general fund building budget requires an increase of $83,800 for additional plan review and inspection consultant fees. The village board approved $85,000 for additional code consultant work back in July. Both the amounts can be offset by decreases to the police and fire budgets for dispatch services and the building budget for full-time salaries, resulting in no net change in the general fund budget. The Water Fund Administration budget requires an $8,000 increase for the Village Hall boiler project. The increase can be offset by an equal reduction in the budget for water purchase and the distribution budget, resulting in no net change to the water fund budget. The Capital Projects Fund budget requires an increase of $53,000 for the Village Hall boiler project and new lobby doors. The boiler project was budgeted in the fiscal year 2016 budget, but was not completed until this fiscal year. The Emergency Telephone Fund requires an increase of $150,000 to allow for costs associated with LTAC Consolidated Dispatch Center. The village has received greater than budgeted state 911 surcharge fees, which will be used to assist with the cost of the new Consolidated Dispatch Center. The tax increment financing and business district funds were not included in the 2016-17 budget, as the TIF and BD areas were only recently approved by the village board. Per the advice of the village's TIF BD attorney, in order to properly allocate the implementation costs incurred in this fiscal year, a fund will be created in the current budget for each district and costs allocated proportionately. Since no tax dollars will be received until the next fiscal year, the expenses will be set up as amounts due to the general fund in the current fiscal year. The village board previously approved an increase in the 2016 street program to allow for additional paving and associated engineering. The budget amendment of $500,000 to the road bonds fund is included in the amended resolution. Staff recommends the village board approve the attached budget amended resolution at tonight's meeting. So I move to approve a resolution amending the fiscal year 2016-2017 budget.
Second.
A motion and a second. Trustee Rocco?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We do this every year. We obviously discussed this in the work session also, and there's no reason for us to not approve it.
Thank you, Trustee Rocco. Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
President DeCipio?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. The next item is for our budget for this year, for 2017-2018, is provide an overview of the Finance Committee's recommendation to the Village Board for our fiscal 2017-2018 budget. The Finance Committee met on the March 14th, March 28th, and April 11th to review the draft budget and the five-year plan update. As a result, the Finance Committee's decision, the committee recommends the following changes to the March 3rd, 2017 draft, previously distributed. The budget modification to the water fund. Increase to the water equipment machinery by $159,850 to accommodate new water meter reader equipment program cost. And then another budget modification to the sewer fund. Changes to the sewer fund and engineering fees and capital improvements for the rebudgeting of sewer lining, as this work will not be completed in the current fiscal year. The accompanying draft, we see the five-year fiscal year 2018 to 22 five-year plan has been amended to align with these changes. No other changes are recommended. There was a public hearing held on April 11th at 7:15 here. The budget and the five-year plan was on the work session agenda and was discussed. Also was anticipated for tonight's and anticipated for action tonight's board meeting. The Finance Committee does recommend that the Village Board consider the following actions. The first is a motion to approve a resolution approving the fiscal year 2017-2018 operating budget. I'm assuming I have to do these motions as three separate motions.
Yes.
So I've got a motion on the table, a motion to approve a resolution approving a fiscal year 2017-2018 operating budget.
Second.
Motion and a second. Trustee Rocco?
Yes, as we know, this was an excellent presentation that was given to us, and we know the excellent work and detailed by our village manager, our department heads. Thank you very much. And there is no reason for us to not approve it.
Any comments from the board? Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And this next motion is a motion to approve the five-year plan fiscal year 2017-18 through 2021-22.
Second.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes, for the same reasons. There's no reason for us to not approve this. This has been discussed. We were given the presentation at the work session, and so go ahead.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And the third motion is a motion to accept the five-year plan 2016-17 through 2021 to 2020 to 21, outdated by the current draft. This is just to keep us all current because the current draft, we want to keep on record that we approved the five-year plan, but we do want to make sure that we accept the five-year plan as outdated by the current draft.
Thank you, Trustee Rocco. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And that concludes everything for the finance. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Rocco. And one item, just, I want to thank the Finance Committee headed by Trustee Rocco and the two trustees and also staff. This is a very laborious procedure and tasks that goes on. And Julia, your staff, and Larry and Emily and all the department heads that really worked hard and got everything together to present to the board in a timely and very understandable manner. Kudos to everyone, so thank you. Okay, Commercial Revitalization Committee, Trustee Casera.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one item to report on, an update, and then we also have another item up for discussion and action. First item is regarding a TIF update. Staff attended the annual Illinois Tax Increment Financing Association Conference in Springfield, April 19th to 21st. The conference included a number of educational sessions as well as opportunities to network with professionals in other communities to learn more about their experiences with TIF. An item up for discussion as well as action. General background, village staff has been in conversation with the proposed restaurateur who is interested in purchasing 1015 and 1017 East 31st Street. The restaurateur currently has the properties under contract and is conducting his due diligence on the properties. Due to the existing site conditions and restraints and current building and life safety codes, the proposed use will require the construction of a new water service line and reconstruction of an existing sewer line at a significant expense. The buyer of the properties has advised village staff that he will need financial assistance from the village in order for the project to proceed due to the extraordinary infrastructure and improvements required. Staff has consulted with the village attorney and the village's special TIF counsel, Kathleen Orr. The proposed infrastructure improvements are eligible costs under both the TIF and business development districts. If the village board is supportive of the incentivizing the project using TIF and or BDD dollars, it would appropriate for the board to approve a resolution to induce redevelopment of certain property within the 31st Street Barnesdale tax increment redevelopment project area. Approval of this resolution would allow the buyer to incur costs which may be eligible for reimbursement in the event the village and the buyer successfully negotiate a redevelopment agreement at a future date. The purpose of this resolution is to acknowledge the village's conceptual approval of the proposed project, noting that any financial assistance is specifically contingent upon the village approving and executing a redevelopment agreement with the buyer, or a successor or assignee of the buyer, which provides for the redevelopment of the subject property in accordance with the terms and conditions to be negotiated by the parties. This time I'd make a motion to approve a resolution to induce the redevelopment of certain property within the 31st Street Barnesdale tax increment redevelopment project area and business district.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Casera.
Thank you, Mr. President. At our work session meeting, we had an opportunity to take a look at the proposed project. We put these, spent a lot of hours, a lot of work, and a lot of discussion putting together the TIF districts and the business development districts. And I think this is an ideal project that we'd like to see. And helping with these, I'm going to call them infrastructure improvements, which I would believe would also assist, and I would have that question to Mr. Flood as to, this sounds like infrastructure as well as specific to this property, and it sounds like it would also assist other potential development.
That's correct, sir. The infrastructure that's being noted would be to increase the water that would be available to this development to handle fire flows. And in addition, the sewer that would need to be replaced is be consistent with state plumbing code.
Thank you. So with that, I think this is the exact type of project we'd like to see. And as we hopefully go forward with this project this evening, see many more opportunities like this to work with businessmen that want to, that either are in our community or would like to come in our community.
Thank you, Trustee Casera. Any other comments from the board? Trustee Rocco?
I just want to echo, I think it's very exciting. I think this is why we developed TIF, and it's being used the way we want it to be. This is the perfect example of why we did it, and it's very exciting to see that it's actually being implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Rocco. Okay, Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
I have to recuse myself.
President DeCipio?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Trustee Casera.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, moving on to the reports. Village Clerk,
I have nothing to report, Mr.
our
President.
Village Treasurer, Village Engineer, our Village Attorney,
Nothing to report, Mr. President.
Committee and Collectors Report. Motion to approve Committee and Collectors Report as presented.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I have a couple items I'd like to bring forward. I'm going to do, okay. First item is that Cherry Sour in the Chamber, the Grange Park Chamber has invited myself and Emily and Julia to their May meeting, either the third or fourth Thursday at 8 o'clock in the morning at Plymouth Place. Julia will follow up with the right date to discuss the BDD and TIF projects that we are undertaking. Next, I have some commission appointments. I would like someone to make a motion to approve committee and commission reappointments. ZBA, Eric Boyd to be reappointed for a new 5-year term expiring in 2022. Board of Police Commissioners, Lavelle Tops to be reappointed for a new 3-year term expiring in 2020. Police Pension Board, Christopher O'Hay to be reappointed for a new 2-year term expiring in 2019. Sustainability Commission and Traffic Safety and Engineering, no action. And Plan Commission, we're going to hold off on appointments at this time. So I would entertain a motion from a trustee.
So, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion, any comments from the board? Seeing none, Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, moving on, I have 3 proclamations. One is Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, whereas a holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife, whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, whereas trees in LaGrange Park increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of our business areas, and beautify our community. Therefore, be it proclaimed that the Village of LaGrange Park proclaims Friday, April 28, 2017 as Arbor Day. And the Village of LaGrange Park encourages all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. Second proclamation, Building Safety Month of May. Whereas the Village of LaGrange Park is committed to recognizing our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic values of our homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our citizens both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster. Whereas the Village of LaGrange Park Building Department issued over 950 building permits and conducted nearly 1,700 inspections over the last calendar year. Whereas Safety Month, Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown guardians of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, efficient, and livable buildings that are essential to keep America safe. whereas our confidence in the structural integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of village guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas code officials, partners in community safety and economic growth, the theme for Building Safety Month 2017 encourages all of us to raise awareness of the importance of building safe and resilient construction, fire prevention, disaster mitigation, and new technologies in the construction industry. Therefore, the Village of LaGrange Park proclaims May 17, 2017 as Building Safety Month. And then the third proclamation is Municipal Clerks Week, May 7th to the 13th, 2017. Whereas the office of the municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of our local government, exists throughout the world, whereas the office of the municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants, whereas the office of the municipal clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at all levels, whereas municipal clerk have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, whereas the municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community, and whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. Therefore, Village of LaGrange Park recognizes May 17th through May 13th, 2017 as a Municipal Clerks Week and further extend appreciation to our Municipal Clerk of LaGrange Park, Amanda Seidel, and to all municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. And we are very appreciative of all the work that you do, Amanda, for our village. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have public participation of non-agenda related items. Would anyone care to address the board? If you do, please step up to the mic and give us your name and address and tell us how you've been patient for so long.
I have children. Hi, I'm Leah Lowry. I live at 808 Kemen Avenue, so not too far. And unfortunately, a few weeks ago, my husband was coming home southbound on Kemen Avenue, and a vehicle tried to pass him on the right while turning into our drive, thus rendering his car indrivable. Luckily, he was okay, and luckily my 9 and 7-year-old were not in the vehicle with him. Was speaking with some of my fellow neighbors on Kemen. They've had near misses of this thing happening. I have personally experienced that. I saw it again just the other day. Since then, and I noticed north of 31st that there are parking spaces painted out. So my concern here is that people are unaware that it is a 1-lane road. They try to make it a 2-lane road. Clearly not, but Brookfield on the other side has parking spaces outlined. So I would propose to the board that we are able to accomplish that on Kemen south of 31st as well to prevent any other accidents and hopefully prevent anything actually, any injuries happening other than to vehicles.
Well, thank you, Leah. This would have to go before traffic safety, or would it come to the board?
Well, we can, staff can first start off by looking into the issue and pulling some data, and talking with the village engineer about some options, but we can information and sort of keep in touch with.
Okay, Lee, why don't you give Julia your information and we can go from there. Thank you for bringing that forward, though.
I was told to be a squeaky wheel if I wanted to get it done.
Well, you're not squeaky by
We're
any
glad your
means.
family's okay too.
Yes.
Okay, any new business? Seeing none, a motion to move into executive session. Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to move into executive session for the purpose to discuss the following: the minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Act, whether for the purpose of approval by the body of minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by Section 2.06 of the Act, according to 5 ILCS 120/2 C 21-2, and the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body 5 ILCS 120/2 C1, not to return to open session until May 9th, 2017.
Thank you, trustee Sheehan. I have a motion, a second.
Second.
Amanda, call the roll.
Trustee Rocco?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Casera?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And we will move into executive session.